6, 5.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Today, we are joined by two of our great Den members that will be sharing their story with us. So again, you are joining us today at Pride Storytelling, our virtual event. My name is Hope Flores. I am the Den Title VI Administrator and part of the EDI team. I will be your moderator for today's event. Today, we are honored to have two courageous Den team members share their Pride stories. There will be a question and answer portion at the end of the session. Please keep in mind, we know that hearing these stories can be triggering and emotional. We ask that all who attend come with an open mind and compassion as we aim to educate the Den community. I would like to first introduce our very first presenter storyteller today, Julie McShane. Julie is a business analyst at Den on the Business Technologies PMO team. She's also a Denver native, a spouse, a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a Disneyland geek. An introvert, she's a dad to 3 boys, a grandma to 2 grandsons, and a transgender woman. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks, Hope. Hi, everyone, and happy Pride. I'm Julie McShane, she, her, and hers. It's so great that Dan takes the time to support these kind of events. I want to throw out a question that you can just think about. What percentage of the US population do you think is transgender? Now, just a guess, you don't have to do anything about that. So I am a proud transgender woman. Really, no one had to tell me or convince me. I knew I was different from the age of 5 or 6. My body was not right. I prayed every night I would wake up as a girl, or you know how you make those deals with God? God, if you just make it go away, I'll be the best person ever. Well, guess what? It didn't work. What I didn't understand till much, much later was that I was already a girl. I was just in the wrong package. Now, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and there wasn't any internet or Google to search. And transgender wasn't even a word yet. Now, I wasn't a great student, but I was always at the Denver libraries trying to understand why I felt the way I did. Was there anyone else like me? I don't know. Most of the things I found, it was defined as a mental illness, and the harsh treatment that they that they used to cure them. Talk about being scared to tell anyone. Well, I did find some people that were like me, Christine Jorgensen and Renee Richards and others, and I read everything I could. There were people like me, yay. It's kind of funny because when I would check out books at the library, I would get the book I wanted, and then I would get all these other brainiac books so that the librarian wouldn't know or suspect I was checking out that type of book. And then once I left the library, you know, I would put those other books back in the book drop. But I also did things to hurt myself because I didn't like my body. And I didn't know why or who could help me. I think I cried some when I started getting facial hair because I knew, oh, this is it. Now I thought, okay, I must be gay, but I was really attracted to girls, so it just confused me more. Now I snuck out of my parents' house late at night a lot in my early teens. Dressed in my sister's clothes many times, going to a 7-Eleven store or just being outside and walking around. It was very late and I must have looked ridiculous. But I still love being out as me. I do have a lot of funny, sad, and some scary stories of those times, and I still can't believe I did them. Like getting my first wig. I was never so nervous. I picked out this god awful curly jet black wig. Um, the wig lady tried to talk me out of it, but at that time there was no blood flowing in my body, and I'm sure there was just buckets of sweat just dripping down my entire self. I just wanted to get out of there as fast as possible, but I did get my first wig. But life continued. I went to college, I graduated, I continued to be my true self in the shadows, and coming to the realization that I was never going to transition. I did marry a beautiful woman who was only the second person I told about myself before we married. And we had 3 boys, and it was a good life. I was a soccer and basketball coach, and I was just trying to be a good dad. At the time, I believed I would always just have Julie hidden and live my life as a male with Julie in the shadows. I've gone by Julie since the 1980s, and I had a credit card with Julie when I went out, and I'd go out by myself or with some other trans women friends to try and fill the void I was feeling. But there was a problem. I was miserable. I love my partner and my boys so much, but around 2010, I had to decide I needed to transition or to really take my life. And I started working on a plan to slowly transition and become my true self. I lost a lot of weight. I worked on makeup. I had hair removal. I sought counseling. And around 2017, I started to come out to my family and started HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy. And HRT was huge. It was a lifesaver. A while later, I came out at my old work, which I swore I would never do. It went okay, but people I had known and worked with for 20 plus years stopped talking to me, or they turned the other way when they saw me coming down the hallway. One senior manager I worked with a lot told me it would probably be best if you went to a job that's less conservative than here. It was so hard for me to understand fully because I felt I'm the same person. I'm just 1,000 times happier. So I got hired by Dan in 2021, and I am so grateful for Dan and the Dan manager that hired me. I'm pretty sure she had some reservations about whether she should hire a trans person, or maybe she just had reservations about hiring me. But let me tell you, it is tough for a trans woman to be hired, especially an older trans woman like myself. My Dan PMO team has been great, and I don't always get that friendliness and acceptance that I felt. Starting this job and not knowing how my team is going to react to me was very scary. Not first time buying a wig scary, but close. Really, every Dan employee I've interacted with has been very respectful. Yes, I've gotten a few sirs on the phone and on team meetings, and yes, I still get that look from people. And I know I make some people uncomfortable, which I do understand. I might be the first trans woman they've really met in person. Dan does a great job with promoting Pride Month, and that is really special to me. I helped out in the Dan Pride booth in 2022, which was really, really great. And I just did the Pride 5K walk that Dan sponsored with some great work allies last Saturday at the Denver Pride. And I walked in the Denver Pride Parade on Sunday with a coworker with the city of Denver attorney office. And I love that Denver has a very diverse workforce. If I had to pick one thing that surprised me, it was that. Also, people of color and women are in a lot of positions of management, and I didn't experience that in a lot of my past employment, especially on the IT side. And it's so great to see. So my biggest disappointment in Den about the LGBT concerns for me was on their Vitality app. You know, it's that app you use to get points for health money. And this is about the app, but it's also about the process that I had to go through. So one of the first things you fill out is a health survey. Okay, I can do that. That's fine. The first question is, what gender were you defined at birth, male or female? It's required, and there's only 2 choices. My reaction was, what the heck? Why are you asking that? Now, I might not have used heck when I said that, but I thought I'd keep it clean. Most cis people probably didn't even think about it when answering, but I was blown away. It took me a while to comprehend that first question before I went on. Why would they need that information? This was a very personal question, and I would share it with my doctor or a medical professional, but why on some fun Stay Healthy app? I don't know. The second question is, what gender do you identify as, male, female, or prefer not to say? So logically, I understand why they want to know to ask the second question. There are some health differences between male and female, but I could still debate if we really need to ask it in this app. Anyway, my question is, why the 2 questions? 99% or more of the answers would be male for question 1, male for question 2, or female for question 1, female for question 2. The transgender, intersect, and non-binary folks are now identified. Again, why? So I do apologize up front for some of the sarcasm that will follow. I sent an email to the Vitality asking them why they asked for birth gender and what do they do with it. I got the generic reply with my name in all caps that birth gender is not a factor, and they apologize for any inconvenience. Well, if it's not a factor, then why are you asking for it? I didn't feel heard. So, me being me, I replied, thanking them for the generic reply, but still wondering why. I did get a nice personal response this time, but I still didn't understand. Here's what Vitality wrote. Vitality wishes to offer an inclusive product to all our members, and that includes recognizing each individual gender identity in order to further this goal. I'm not really sure what their point was, but they also pointed out some categories they personalize based on that first question. Now that's their words, based on the first question. One was the body mass index, the BMI. Prevention activities, personal goals, forms, marketplace tags. Are they marketing to the transgender community? And then the old Vitality age calculator, which is a number that they put all your health stuff in, and it gives you how old you are based off all your health information. So really, how does any of these relate to how you were identified at birth? For example, a BMI is based on height and weight, not age or sex. Again, me being me, I emailed them asking, how do these relate and how do they use it in that Vitality age calculator? And they just stopped responding to me. I also sent a letter to the Office of Human Resource at CCD, and they told me they understand my concern, but they are fine with the question, and that's their words. It really helps them in the calculation for that Vitality age, and people use it as a wake-up call to get healthy. They told me it's also part of the health review for health trends, and if this question was removed, it would disrupt that. Plus, they pointed out it's a lot of work to remove that question. So just a side note, I was a web programmer earlier in my career, and I just find that so hard to believe, but okay. They also said if they get a lot of complaints, they'll think about removing it for 2024. And I just love the word think. They'll think about removing it for 2024. So again, me being me, I did reply to her nicely, telling her I feel she doesn't understand my concerns and pointing out that 99% of the people put male for the first question, male for the second, female for the first, and female for the second. And the vitality age wouldn't change for them, and probably really not much for the other 1%. And what health trends are you tracking on trans people? I didn't point out that there won't be a lot of complaints about the first question because most people probably don't realize what it really is asking. So I got the point that OHR is moving on. Well, you know me, I don't. So I did reach out to the city of Denver OSEI director about my complaint. And they replied that they forwarded it to the OHR department since they handle the app, and to reach back out to them if I needed further support. Wow, further support. Okay. Well, I emailed her back saying I already reached out to OHR, which was in my first email to her. And we corresponded a few more times with me finally asking if the OSEI was okay with this question too, pointing out that I thought this kind of a medical question that would fall under HIPAA, my opinion. They told me they listened to my concern and they advocate to remove this question. But they told me that the OHR manages the platform, and it's their call, so they can't do much. So here I was, I tried to get my voice heard, and they didn't hear. Hopefully, it won't be on the 2024. Again, I'm not blaming any person. They're probably thinking, wow, it's really not that big a deal. Move on, get a life. Yeah, maybe I should. I don't know. Anyway, I'd like to end my time on my soapbox, even though you're probably saying, well, you're already on your soapbox. If you're a fan of Ted Lasso on Apple TV, one of the episodes is where one of his players comes out as gay. And everybody states they don't care if he's gay or not, they support. But Ted points out that they do care. They care about him, and they care what he's gone through. Anyway, it is a good episode. And what I'm trying to show is the transgender community is under siege and we need support. If you are a true ally, don't use the word but. I support transgender people, but not on pronouns or sports or bathroom or locker rooms or transition or women's spaces, etc. I truly believe there should be guidelines on some things. But don't believe everything they say about us. We aren't going to attack you in restrooms. We aren't going to overtake women's sports or women's spaces. Doctors are not doing operations on children to transition. We are not grooming children. Go back into history. Look on YouTube. They were saying the same thing about gays and lesbians in the 70s as they're saying about trans people now. Gays are preying on children. They're turning our kids gay. They're molesters. If you have a question about transgender people, ask, research. Believe me, transitioning is not an easy process, very long. I love to help and inform people, so please reach out to me. There are a lot of good trans people out there. I would love to hear your concerns, help people understand, or help me to understand what are you worried about. So back to my original question, what percentage of the US do you think is transgender? Well, 50% of the population is women. So that's 167.5 million in the US. Roughly, there's 330 million people in the US. 7.6 are gay or lesbian. So think about that. Less than 10% are gay or lesbian. 0.5% are transgender. That's 0.005 or 1.6 million people. And that's split between transgender women and trans men. Plus, this isn't just a US thing, it's the same percentages are in the world population too. And people ask, well, why Pride Month? And we have Pride Month to spotlight and celebrate the LGBTQ community and the culture and point out the problems and injustice the LGBTQ plus people go through. For example, so far in 2023, there are 550 plus anti-trans bills. Compared to that to 2022, there was 174. Why they increased? I believe it's because people are starting to believe the lies. They hear a story and they think, well, that sounds reasonable. We in this country are spending so much time and money on problems that don't exist yet and passing laws that only affect a half of 1% of the population. We have real problems in this country, and transgender people are not one. We just want to live our lives like everyone else. Anyway, thank you for listening. I'm happy to answer really any questions. Thank you, Dan, for putting on this and many of the other wonderful events. I'm getting down from my soapbox. Happy Pride, everyone.
Julie, thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing your insight, and for just being so courageous and being vulnerable with us. We really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you very, very much. And thank you for being open to answer any questions too, to help educate.
Thanks.
Now we're going to go into another story with one of our storytellers. Our next storyteller is Joy Martinez Narvaez. Joy is a senior manager for the Customer Relations Center. She has been in Denver almost her entire life. Joy is a partner to her wife of 8 years, a grandma to 3 wonderful granddaughters, and a mom to 4 grown children. Joy coaches roller derby for Boulder County Roller Derby in her spare time. Welcome, Joy.
Thank you, Hope. And great story, Julie. I appreciate you sharing everything that you did with us and being so vulnerable. It was great to hear. To kick off my story, I was about 5 years old when I knew that I was very different. I would catch myself playing with my brother's G.I. Joes and taking the heads off of my Barbie dolls and throwing them on the roof. Playing basketball with my Cabbage Patch Kid heads. So that right there told you I was a little bit different. Now, when I was growing up, it wasn't safe because I was born in the 70s. So early 81, I knew that I was gay. I never came out. And then probably after I got married, I did marry a man, had 2 wonderful children with this person. He left after my son was a month and a half old. And that's when I really was coming into my own and just finding women more attractive and just wanting to be who I really was. And at that time, it wasn't accepted in my family. It was one of those, no, you're not gay. It's a sickness. You'll be fine. Everything will change. Even to this day, my family's not very accepting of it, and I do not speak to my family much because of it. I did come out, and when I came out, it was one of those, hey, you're hanging around with this person an awful lot. Are you gay? Yeah, appears I am. So I guess that was my easy way of coming out. It wasn't so easy for my kids. My daughter mostly, she was probably in the 5th grade when I went to her school. And at that time, I already had my short hair. I look as I do now. I've always had the same haircut. And if anybody knows me, knows I'm very much obsessed with my hair. So my kid was like, why do you have to look like this in public? Why do you have to look like my dad? Why can't you look like my mom? Why do you have to be this way? And I didn't understand why she didn't realize who I was and who I was trying to be. So I sat her down. We had a great talk. And then after that, my child became my biggest supporter. And even to this day, you know, she started going to prides with us, making signs that say, my mom is gay, my mom is this. She would even go as far as to tell her friends that I was her dad and see how far she could get people to believe that, which was actually quite funny because I look nothing like her dad. So jump to 2012, I met my wife just as a friend. She will 100% tell you she is straight, and she's only married to a woman who she loves. We started dating, got married in 2015. We're one of the first couples to be able to get married as soon as the law passed. And here we are 8 years later, just doing what we do with 4 kids. She has 2 kids. I have 2 kids. We have 3 grandchildren together. It's been amazing just being able to be who I am. And going into roller derby is, the community in roller derby is, we're a very mixed bunch. We have transgender people, there are gay, lesbian, bisexual folks, anything you could think of is in roller derby. And so it's been one of those places that I can absolutely be myself and be who I am. But I do have to tell you, at previous employers, pride was a word that would put a target on your back. Here at Den, I felt so empowered to be my true self, which has been very welcoming. I've only been with the city for a little over a year, but nobody has made me feel unwanted or I didn't get hired or treated a certain way because I am who I am. I feel like my boss has just opened the door to my life, and I can tell her anything and express myself in any way, shape, or form in my group, which is absolutely amazing because in other places you just don't have that support. You just don't have the people really wanting to know all about you. We held something similar like this in customer service last week. It was Courageous Conversations, storytelling with customer service. And just the support and the love and the attention and everything we received from the GCM group and customer service was beyond anything that I could have ever imagined. I did not realize that many people actually cared and that many people actually wanted to know about the lifestyle and wanted to know so many things about me. And then the hugs afterwards, the caring, the everything, it just made, I left work that day feeling that was one of the best days that I've ever had at Den. And this comes in second. This is another great day. And I love that Den is showing things like this and making people more aware. And they're not hiding us in a box or in a corner or somewhere like that. They're letting us be our true selves. And for that, I thank you to everyone who put this together and who's here to listen. I know I had a lot more time, but I don't have anything else to share, so sorry.
That is totally fine. Thank you so much, Joy, for sharing, letting us know a little bit more about yourself. Both you and Julie came here and really, I mean, you're just opening the doors to your own personal life, and we really appreciate it and are so grateful for that. It takes a lot of courage to do that. And so I thank you both. I thank you both from, our Den team, and I hope we continue to grow and be able to bring, awareness and just education, because a lot of times people are, hesitant to new ideas because they're not educated in the topic. So if we could help bring that forward, I think that could be really helpful. And so I really appreciate you both signing up for this, helping me, put this together and making sure that we're we're educating our Den team members, our Den family together. So thank you. I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for any questions. Any comments that anybody would like to make, please let us know. Go ahead and put that in the Q&A and I'll go through and start reading it. I do want to say that there are a lot of encouraging messages in the Q&A right now, which I really, really appreciate for our two guest speakers. Thank you everyone that's here, taking the time out of your busy schedule to come learn and hear stories from our colleagues. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the Q&A now. This is a great opportunity. I mean, Julie even said she's open for any questions. This is a great chance to ask any of those questions here. I do see a question that came in. First of all, it says, thank you, Joy, for sharing. Can you please talk more about what roller derby is?
Oh, roller derby is a sport that you have 4 blockers and a jammer. The jammer is, the object of the goal is to pass all the blockers, complete an entire lap, and then you're on a scoring path. On that scoring path is when you can, everybody pretty much beats each other up. So it's a little bit of, you could take your frustrations out on people in a very safe, exciting way. If you're interested in roller derby, you should look up BoulderCountyRollerDerby.com. You'll get a lot more insight into what roller derby is and how the game is actually played. It's kind of like, it's hard to explain, but you have to see it.
Thank you, Troy. That made me want to go and see. I see. I don't know. You might end up recruiting me.
Fantastic. 100% recruit anybody we can. We just had a game this past weekend. We do have one coming up on July 8th. So if anybody's interested in going to it, it's at the Boulder County Fairgrounds.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us know. Definitely something worth checking out. I have another question that came in. This one is for Julie. Who do you say to, or what do you say to folks who claim that people will regret their transition?
Yeah, that's probably a tough one because I cannot believe you would regret the transition. Transitioning isn't, like I said, it's a long process, especially if you start going through different stuff from the medical side to changing your name to doing all those different types of things. I mean, it took me like hair removal. I probably did it 5 years to get just the beard gone, and I wasn't a very hairy person type of thing. I would say to somebody that is thinking about detransitioning, to just, examine, that's fair. If they feel that way, they feel that way. I just think there's a lot of, again, I think that's one of the fallacies that people pass, that, oh, we can just start down that transition road and not really think about it. That is really hard to do. There's so many hurdles to go over that you have to talk to different people, do different things. So, yeah, I don't know if I totally answered that, but it's a tough life. It's a tough thing when you choose to transition or not to transition or to detransition.
Thank you so much for your answer and for your insight. We do have another question. Here at Den, how can we be more supportive? And that's for either one of you, Julie or Joy, or both.
So honestly, like in my group, I don't feel like I could be supported any less. I just see so many. It's just different for. I guess it's different for everybody. I'm I'm a shy person, but when I get to know you, I'm very extrovert. So now that these nice people know me here at Den, like I'm all over the place and I'll talk your ear off and just be who I am. But I don't think there's anything different that anybody could do to make me feel any more supported than what I really am.
Thank you, Joy. Julie, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would say the support I'm getting now, I really it's unbelievable. It's really good. I think from a Bain type of thing, it's like yeah, just being there and treating me like anyone else, I think is really a great acceptance type of thing. If you just treat me just like I'm any other person working at Dan.
Great. Thank you both for your responses. If we have any other questions, now's the time to put them in the Q&A. I want to go in and also, let's see, we have another question that came in. This is a little bit of what we just asked. What are we missing at Den to support you? And how can we do it better? Okay, this is a 3-part question. If you had one wish in this area, what would it be? So how can we do better here at Den? If you had one wish in this area, what would it be? Who would like to take that question? Julie, can we start with you?
Yeah. So the one thing that I would like to see is trying to, I guess, a better way to, I guess, report complaints or dissatisfaction. For example, on that Vitality app, it took me a while. I sent it to the wellness center here, and then they said, no, we're not, you have to go. And with the city of Denver, like, it was really hard for me to navigate, like, well, who do I go to for this type of thing versus, that. I would love to see like an LGBTQ organization that would accept allies and LGBT community people, so that we could meet, once a quarter or once a month, and just supporting each other would be really good. I would also like to see, and I was talking to my coworker when we went to the parade on Sunday. It would have been really nice to maybe have some Dan banners in the parade, because there was a couple different Dan or City of Denver departments there. Dan was represented by, I think, there was another person from Dan and then us too in the parade, but we didn't have the matching shirts, and they had all the different things. So it'd be kind of nice to at least have different banners like Dan Loves Pride or things like that. I'd love to see just a presence in the parade, in the pride type of thing. I think that would be really cool.
Thank you for bringing that up. That is actually on my list of things to do. We are going to be there, and we're that's one of my goals, is to make our presence at, the Den presence a lot more visible during, Denver Pride weekend. It's not just one day.
Happy dance.
So I'm going to write your name down, because we're going to make those groups. we're going to plan, and I have a vision that we're going to have a float in next year's parade. So
All right, I love it.
Thank you for your insight, Julie.
Thanks.
Joyce, would you like to answer that question as well?
Good. Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with Julie. I would love some banners or something. You know, if we're out and about, or even I wouldn't mind putting them up at our roller derby team stuff as well. You know, showing Den does support Pride and things like that. So I think that's a darn great idea, Julie. I 100% support that idea.
I love it. I love it. I love it. This is definitely something that during the, just preparing for the Pride festivities, that came up a lot. There are so many opportunities here. So definitely everybody that's joining us, be on the lookout, send ideas over, send them over to me. We're going to make Den's, presence in Pride a lot more next year. Let's see. I'm looking through our questions to see if there are any other ones coming in. We do have some. How did you support your children in adjusting to your new family dynamic? So can we start with you? Because we started with Julie with the last question.
Yeah. So my kids and my partner's kids were kind of thrown into things. We both left some pretty ugly relationships, and we moved into a 1-bedroom hotel that had 2 beds with 4 kids, 1 grandbaby, and then us 2. So our kids had to get really close really quick. And to this day, our kids are the best of friends. They immediately started calling each other brother and sister, and it was never forced upon, or even said, hey, you have to call them your brother. That's not how this is. So it's been really great to see our family be together and just be happy for each other and love each other from day one, it really seems. 2 of our kids are a lot older, but our 2 youngest ones will, even though they're brother and sister, they're best friends. And whenever they're both together, we all have to run and hide because they're coming for us, and they're gonna get us, pretty much.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Julie?
So one of the hardest things I did was coming out to my boys. And I think I was lucky because they were basically adults when I came out. So like with Joy's story, they were, still in school and stuff. With that, being in the younger generation as they are type of thing, they've been around gay and lesbians and non-binary and trans people up in college and different things. But it's different when it's your dad. And my 2 oldest, their jaws were on the floor when I told them. My youngest one, who was, I think, probably about 23 at the time, he's like, can I give you a hug and things like that. They're all really accepting of me. And it's really good, except I lost that dadness type of thing, that dad connection. So they still call me dad, and I love that. I'm, their dad. life type of thing, but it's a different type. That bond, that dad-son bond, got lost a little bit. I just went last year, with my two youngest ones. We went to Disneyland, my spouse and I, and those two, and we do things all the time. We go over to my oldest, who has the grandkids, and we celebrate all the holidays and everything like that. And they're so accepting and loving that way. But that little part, it still hurts. It was a big choice, but it was something I had to do. And unfortunately, people are involved that I know it's probably tough on them. So, but there's love, so that helps.
Thank you for sharing. We have a few more questions in the Q&A right now. One says, can either of you speak to what the biggest factors in the shift in society regarding the LBGT plus community from when you were growing up until now?
Sure, I'll take that one.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
So from the trans perspective, when I was growing up in the 70s and some of the 80s, so that was the big push when the gay and lesbian rights, that type of thing. And the trans community was always kind of in the back seat type of thing. So again, we were a smaller population of that type of thing. But the focus a lot was on the gay and lesbian type of things. Going out in the 70s and 80s, I was laughed at. I was yelled at close into my face, that type of thing. There was a lot of different things that I had to endure that now when you see different people that are trans or non-binary, most people like, yeah, it's, it's common type of thing, at least in Colorado. I know some of the South is different type of thing. So growing up, the trans, there was it's a worldwide community of trans people that you can join. And there was groups within Colorado that I was in, but we were really in the shadows. We'd go to different things, but we really kept private, that type of thing. And I just love how the younger trans people from really the 2000s to now, they're going through a hard thing. I'm not saying that, but they're out, they're ready. It's a lot more accepting, even though people are riding on the trans community now, and back then it was a lot more in the closet for the trans community than it is now.
Thank you, Julie. I know that there is one other question in here, but I'm going to give Joy the opportunity to answer the same question that Julie just answered, and then we could go on to the next one.
Okay. So I 100% agree with you, Julie. From the time I was growing up too, there was never just an array of people. It was always you're either lesbian or you're a gay man. There was never the extra and the inclusivity that is now. If you were gay, you were considered a dyke. And so coming up now and seeing just how different in everything is, and the language, the the wording, everything is in the community feels a lot more open. And you're right, a lot of people were in the closet back then, and some still are. And even though it feels easier to come out nowadays because so many people have come out, I feel like there's still so many people just hiding in the closet, and I really wish there was something more that we could do to help those people come out. But the community has grown so much from the time that I've even come out. It's just huge now.
Thank you for that. Again, thank you both for answering. We have another question that is in the chat right now. So this one says, CNN reports that this year has been record-shattering for anti-LGBTQ legislation, with particular scrutiny on gender-affirming healthcare access for transgender children and teenagers. What are your thoughts on this, and what advice do you have for the average person who wants to be a better LGBTQ advocate and ally?
So I'll take that real quick. I know we're running out of time, but gender affirming care is a big name, and people associate that with all these radical type of things, and it really isn't. It's getting that person counseling. It's getting that person to understand where they're at, type of thing. A lot of things are not happening that they're saying that's happening. So this gender affirming care is the start to kind of explore that, to tell I thought I was going crazy back when I was, 9, 10, 11 years old, because I could not talk to anybody. And it's like, why am I feeling this way? That type of thing. And it would have been really nice to have somebody to talk to say, why do I feel like I'm not the right person? That type of thing. So to start with, some gender affirming care is great. And do they have puberty blockers? And do they have that? That's between really the parents, the child, and the medical profession. It's not for the politicians to decide. But it would have been nice for me to have those options to decide, like, hey, yeah, I could think about this or do this type of thing. So gender affirming care, again, is not the radical thing that people think it is.
Thank you so much for that answer and for that insight. I know that we are about to wrap up, so I just want to take this moment to just again thank you both, Julie and Joy, for being so courageous, coming to this platform and sharing your stories with us, and just being basically like an open book, educating all of us here. So thank you so much for sharing your stories with us today and for participating. Thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules, for joining us today and being able to hear Joy and Julie's stories, and continuing to educate yourselves and supporting what we do here at Den for Pride. As I mentioned earlier, we want to do more, and we're going to do more. We're going to make it, Pride Fest is going to be a Den festival. You just wait and see. We're going to at least do that, the very least, right? And thank you to everyone behind the scenes that has made this possible, being able to put this all together, Teams Live, and bring all this to us. So from everybody here, thank you. Have a great day and happy Pride.
Thanks, Hope.
Thank you.